So here is a brief tutorial review on dividing polynomials. Suppose that you were asked to divide 2x to the fourth minus 3x squared plus 5x minus 1 by the quantity x plus 2. Now we could use our generic rectangles to do that, or we could use just long division to do that. And I'll show you both ways. One thing to notice here, and this was intentional, is that we are missing one of the terms. Notice that we go from x to the fourth to x squared, skipping over x cubed. And so when that happens, you want to work this process out via long division or the generic rectangles, the polydokus as our book calls them. We don't want to skip the x cubed term. We want to make sure we include it. So in here, we're going to want to include a 0x cubed in our work so that we are accounting for what's happening to x cubed terms. So be aware of that. We want to have whatever our highest power of x is, we want to include all the lower powers of x up to the constant. And so you'll see that when we rewrite this. So in our division problem, in our long division version of this, we're going to have x plus 2. Did I copy that right? Yeah, x plus 2 divided into the numerator. And notice how I have the 0x cubed in here so that, I'm doing this process properly. I'm including all the powers of x less than 4 and including 4. So now I ask myself, how many times does x go into 2x to the fourth? That would be 2x cubed times. Hopefully this will fit on the screen. I'm going to have to write kind of small and probably get smaller progressively as I go. Now what you have to do here is you have to multiply 2x cubed times both terms over here, x and 2. So I have to distribute 2x cubed. When I distribute it, I'm going to get 2x to the fourth, because 2x cubed times x is 2x to the fourth, plus 2x cubed times 2, which is 4x cubed. Now with long division, after we do that multiplication, we have to subtract. And when I subtract, 2x to the fourth minus 2x to the fourth becomes 0. Not going to write it down. 0x cubed minus 4x cubed is going to be a negative 4x cubed. And then I'll bring down the negative 3x squared here like this. Now I start the process over. I ask myself, how many times does x divide into negative 4x cubed, or what do I multiply x by to get negative 4x cubed? And that'll be a negative 4x squared. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties here. Here we go. That'll be negative 4x squared. And so when I distribute the negative 4x squared times x, I get negative 4x cubed. And then negative 4x squared times positive 2 gives me a negative 8x squared. I'll subtract that quantity. And when I subtract that quantity, my negative 4x cubed minus negative 4x cubed cancels. You have to be careful here with the subtracting the negative. So negative 3x squared minus negative 8x squared. When you subtract the negative, it's adding the opposite. So it's negative 3x squared plus 8x squared, which makes 5x squared. Then you bring down the 5x over here. And then from here, let me see if I can move my screen around a little bit. I ask, how many times does x go into 5x squared? This can give me a plus 5x. So 5x times x is 5x squared, and 5x times 2 is going to be a 10x. And then I need to subtract. And then 5x squared minus 5x squared is 0. 5x minus 10x is negative 5x. And then bring down the minus 1, and I'm barely going to squeeze this on the screen. From here, x goes into negative 5x negative 5 times. And so negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. I'm going to subtract. Negative 1 minus negative 10 is the same as negative 1 plus 10, which gives me 9. So now what do we do with that 9? Since the 9 has no x's next to it, we need to stop. This is our remainder. And if you remember what we talked about in class, what we do with our remainder is we put it onto the end here. Since the 9 is positive, I'll put a plus 9 divided by what our divisor, our denominator from the original fraction, x plus 2. And so in my final answer of this division problem, it's 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5x minus 5 plus 9 divided by the quantity x plus 2. Now we could have done that with one of the Polydoku setups, as our book calls it. It would look something like this. X plus 2 is going to go on the left-hand side vertically like this. We're going to need 2 horizontal rows. And then the numerator of that original fraction is going to go on the bottom. It would be the result of multiplying x plus 2 by some other quantity to get this result from the generic rectangle. We're working backwards from this. I drew it really, really long. You don't have to know how many columns you need. If you just draw it long enough to get enough columns, eventually you'll figure out the columns, the number of columns naturally in the process. And you might see a pattern eventually, which will be good, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So I put the 2x to the 4th in the first box here. So this number that's on the bottom, the first number, the highest power of x term, goes in the first box. And I ask, what do I multiply by x to get 2x to the 4th? And that would be 2x cubed. That gives me 2x to the 4th. And then I multiply the 2x cubed times 2 to get 4x cubed down here. Now, what I have to do is I have to realize I have 0 x cubes in my final result. So what I have to put up in this next box up here is something to combine with 4x cubed so that the whole total will be 0x cubed. Well, hopefully you realize that's going to be a negative 4x cubed, because positive 4x cubed and negative 4x cubed makes 0x cubed. And then I ask, what do I multiply x by to get negative 4x cubed? This would be a negative 4x squared. And then I multiply that negative 4x squared times 2 to get negative 8x squared down here. And then again, I ask myself, what do I have to combine with negative 8x squared to make this negative 3x squared? Well, that's got to be 5x squared, because negative 8 and 5 make negative 3. So now, x times what gives me 5x squared? That's going to be a 5x. 5x times 2 is 10x. But I only have 5x's total, so I'm going to need a negative 5x up here to combine with the 10x to make the 5x that's out over here. And then I'm going to have to multiply x by negative 5 to make the negative 5x. Multiply the negative 5 times the 2 to get a negative 10 down here. And, well, I only have negative 1 down here, which means I'm going to need a 9. And that leaves me with the negative 1, and there's my remainder. And so I take that remainder and I put plus 9 over x plus 2, and I get the exact same answer that we got over here. Everything's exactly the same. Just a different method. You can use either one, whatever makes it easier for you to think through the problem logically and get the correct answer. Go study.